Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a topic that I think is often misunderstood: containers. Now I know as soon as people hear the term Docker, containers, and images, they immediately think of microservices. But I'm here to tell you that containers are not just for microservices. In fact, even if you are deploying a single web API or a monolithic application, using containers can be a game changer. So whether you are a beginner who is just getting started or someone who has been deploying applications the traditional way, stick around because I will be sharing why you should consider containers even for single deployment. Before we jump right into our Visual Studio, let me clear some misconceptions that people or developers do have. When most people hear about containers, as said earlier on, they immediately associate them with microservices. And yes, containers are great for microservices, but that is not the only use case. You can actually use containers to package and deploy even a single web API. Why would you want to do that? Well, let me explain. Imagine you have developed a web API for your business and you are getting ready to deploy it. Traditionally, you would set up a server, install all the dependencies, configure everything, and then finally deploy your application. But what if there's a way to simplify this process, make it more consistent, and avoid those "it works on my machine" problem? That is where containers come in. With a container, you can package your application along with all its dependencies, configurations, and everything it needs to run. That means no more worrying about different environments or missing libraries. Yes, you get to define your environment once, and it runs the same way everywhere. So you can see that using containers is quite more beneficial than using traditional way of deploying application. Well, aside from this, there are also other benefits of using containers for even your single application. Your app will run the same on local machine, in staging and in production. You don't need to manually set up an environment. You just deploy your container and that is all. And here, you can also run your containerized application on any system that supports Docker. Whether it is Linux, it is Windows, or it is Mac. As soon as it supports Docker, you can run your application on it. It's quite simple. So maybe you're saying that, oh, okay, I've understood. Now, what are some of the hosting options that support containerized apps? Well, we have Azure App Service. It is over there. AWS supports it. Google Kubernetes Engine also supports it. So let's say I have a simple application. This is going to be a CRUD application, web API. It is just a simple or a single API. Now this API supports CRUD, that is a create, read, update, and delete. I want to create this application. Instead of I hosting it traditional way, I want to containerize this application and build this application as image so that as soon as I want to host it, all that I need to do here is an upload the image and I'll start it, and that is all. So in this case, what can we do? Let's hop into our Visual Studio and see this magic. Make sure you have a Visual Studio 2022 or higher installed. We're going to create a project here. We are going to create CRUD, but we are not actually focusing on how to create CRUD. We are focusing on how can you build your API as an image and run it in Docker, even if it is a single API, single application. Okay, so let's choose an ASP.NET call, web API, and that is a demo. So I have a name given, containerized API, I have a location selected, and here we're going to use the .NET 8. Then, so we can click on enable, where is it? Enable container support. Let's maintain the default for Docker file. Now click on create. So with this, you can enable it here, or after you've created a project, you can also add it as a support. So now that you have your project created like this, what is the next thing that you need to do? You quickly need to install Docker Desktop. This is an application which enables us to create our images or to bundle our project or our web API as an image. Okay, so let's do that. So Docker supports, I think, all the platforms, talking about Windows, Linux, and Mac. You can get them from here. So if you want to click on Docker desktop, that is a docs.docker.com/desktop, you can have access to the platforms that it does support: Mac, Windows, and Linux. So you can install one based on your operating system. So, and follow the prompt and just follow it, get this package installed. So when you have this package installed, you should have some view like this. You see it is the same color, right? So you can see you have something like this. Never mind, I have some things running here. Okay, so you should have something like this running. And here, the most important thing here is you see engine running. Engine running. Great. So once you are done with this, it means you are good to go. Now let's go to our project, and in here we're going to create a model. I told you earlier that we are not actually focusing on creating CRUD, but we are going to brush through and I get it. Normally I do use product model. Well, you can change it. And let's have some properties in product. That's what we're going to be using to create our database connected to SQLite, SQL Server, SQLite. Let's use that. So I have this as an ID. Alright, so let's assume we have this model, and that is what we're going to use to build our CRUD operation and have our endpoint. Great. Now let's go to solution. We're going to use this scaffolded feature in here to skip wasting some time, because I assume you know this already. If you don't know how to perform CRUD, I have a lot of videos on that. Maybe you can check the playlist beneath this video and you can have a lot in that. Right click on this. Let's go to add new scaffolded item, and in here we're going to choose API CRUD. This is going to give us endpoint. We want controller, endpoint controller. Which one? Okay, if you want an endpoint, you go for this. If you want controller, you go for that. Let's use a traditional controller. Okay, so here we're going to choose a model, and that's our product. DB context, we don't have any, so we're going to create it. Let's make it as demo. I'm going to say this one is appdb context. Appdb context. And here I choose a database provider, and here we need an SQLite. Controller name is product. Okay, click on add. Now you wait for this. This is going to install some packages, and I'll scaffold this this feature and create nice endpoint. That's a controller endpoint, and also create our connections, database connection, and do all the stuff that we need to do manually. So let's wait for it. Oh, that's amazing. So we can see we have all the endpoints in here, and I'm not going through this. Just create, read, update, and delete. So you can just go through yourself. Now let's go to solution, and when you check, you see we have a Docker file created, and this has been added since creating this project, because we added a feature of enable maybe Docker. I think so. So that's the reason why we have this. Now let's go to our app settings. We have our connection down there waiting. So here, this is our appdb context. We want to remove all this, and since we are dealing with product, so this is product db. Okay, let's save this. And when you go to solution, go to program.cs file, you can see it has been registered nicely. I can remove all this. We want to make it simple. Okay, let's close it with addition. All right, so we have this set. Now we're going to add migration. So first, let's build this project. So now that we have this done, let's go ahead and update the database. So we have a migration created already. Want to check a solution? We have the data folder, and do you have migration? Yeah, we don't, so we need to add that as well. So let's say add migration, give it name. So updates database. So you can see we have it and it is done. We can go ahead and now test this out before we build an image of this. So let's go ahead and then give it a try. We're going to add product. Alright, so it is added. We can just get it all here and check it out. Okay, so we have it. It tells us that we are successfully connected to our SQLite and we can perform a CRUD in it. Great. Now it is the time for us to push this or bundle this as an image and now push it to our Docker container, Docker desktop. Okay, so let's go to our solution. Then from our app settings, we want to change this app/data. Then we have this. That is where we're going to map our database. So now that we are done with this, we need to create a Docker Compose file. Right click on the solution. Then let's click on add. So YML. Okay. So let's give it a name. Docker Compose. And in here, I have this simple lines that I'm going to copy. I've prepared it beforehand. You know, when typing that, you must be extra careful. Else you make mistakes. But you know, this is quite simple and you can use some seconds to finish this. So we have our services, and the services is what contains this. So you can see this, the services could have 2 or more services. Currently we have only 1 service, and that is our web API. So give it a name as web API, making a reference to this. We can change this to maybe this is, what's the name of this? It is product API. So you can say this is product API. And here we're going to build it. So under building, we want to specify the current directory, and that's what we have in where this file is found. We're going to use a Docker file. Yes, of course, because we have it. And do you remember we created that? So this is the Docker file that is going to use. This is provided defaultly by Microsoft. So you don't need to create anything to worry yourself. Just add the feature and boom, you have it. Give it a name after this has got created. You should give it a unique name. And here, I'm not going to say to do, it's going to be product API. Now this product API v1, that's the version 1. So I want to say that my product API. Then what is the container name? So web API should match with what you have specified. So that is a product API. Give it port. So let's say this is 6000. Now this 6000 maps to a default port. Where can you find this default port? It's not about talking. Maybe you're thinking about you going to the properties and checking the LAN settings and are looking up for a port here. And I'm saying, oh yeah, I get it. It is 7050 or it is 5012. No, we want to focus about the port specified in a Docker file. This is a Docker file generated automatically, and here it is exposing 2 ports, one for HTTP and one for HTTPS. We want to focus on the HTTP, so we can make it either 80 or 8080. So we can scrap the 80 off, but let's maintain the 8080. And that is what we are mapping in here. So this is the internal port. This is going to be an external port. We can access our API through this port. So maybe if you want to have a client, such as Blazor or any other client, and want to consume this image, this web API run as an image in Docker, then this API or this client you consume on the port of 60000. Right? And here the development is development. Oh, development is development. The environment here is development because we are still developing it. You can change the production if you think you want to produce it, but well, I'm developing, so it's still under development. And here we want to create a volume so we can keep our data, and that is exactly where we are doing it. Remember that the volume here, it is data and then the app. When you check our connection in our app settings, it looks same, meaning they are pinpointing to a specific location where we can have access to the file, meaning our database. So now that we have this set, we can go ahead and build this again. And the next thing is, in order for us not to be going back and forth, I want us to move this. So right click on any of the file in there, go to open container folder. And now in here, we want to move this to the core root of the project. So let's grab Docker Compose. Let's also grab our Docker file. Let's move it to the first root here. We have the two files here. So you can see with this line of code, we're able to build our files, right? Our image. So let me just open it here so you can see what is going on. So with just line of code like this, we're able to build this as an image, which will run isolatedly in our Docker desktop application. Okay, so let's go and run that. No, we're going to build it first. So to build it, you need to make sure your Docker desktop has engine started. And also we're going to say that Docker. Let's see first, where are we? You will see we can still have this Docker Compose file, right? So that's where we are opting from. We're saying that Docker -compose. Then let's build this first. So this is going to build this project, and I'll make it as an image. And this image, after this has finished building, we're going to get that. We're going to see that in our component, in our Docker desktop. So I have a to-do app here, to-do solution. After building, when you go to the images, we should see demo containerized API. We should see it here. So let's wait. Oh, all right. So you can see that we have our application ready and it is now built. Now let's go ahead and run this. So here we can just write Docker, then compose app. So this command is going to run this. When you go up to our Docker desktop, we must have this. So let's see if we're gonna have that in here. Let me search for that is demo. Yeah, so demo containerized API. Now we have it. As you can see, we have this in here. Okay, and it is in the tag here. It is dev. Want to check here. We have the image as my product API. Product API. Now we're going to run this. So let's issue this. Click on enter, and I can see that here we have a network automatically created. You can see we have network default. You can specify your default network when you have multiple services running on, so that all of them can be on one network. But since we have only one service, we need not to create a network for that. It's going to be created automatically and now run on it. So you can see we have our app now listening on this. So you can even close this project solution here, but they're still going to run. Let's access the endpoint. So when you go to your Docker desktop, go to containers, and you're going to find it in here, demo containerized app. When you click on this, you can see we're going to have access to 6,000, and that is external and internal port. Let's click on this. So let's try to access this, and we have a local host. The port is 6,000. We have our Swagger. Since it is development mode, we should have our Swagger, but this is not working. It means we need to change the port. So let's make it a 6050 for the port, and the mode here is development. So when you check our program.cs, we have it also development, and here we want to see Swagger. Great. Let's stop this and let's build it again. Let's go and run it. So let's make sure it is coming. So you can see that it's going to recreate it. That is an update. Now let's refresh this. We should see it should come from the port of 6050 and Swagger. So this should open, and yes, of course we have it. Now let's see if we're going to have access to the data that we added. But let's check it up and see. Oh, I want to check it. You can see it is saying that unable to open database. Unable to open database. It tells you that, well, there's an issue here. Although we have created migration file, we updated it to this, but when you go to the Docker, we need to perform migration in there. Although it's going to add the script, the migration file. So in there, after the application has built, let's perform migration here. And we need to use using statement so it can close. As soon as we are done, we need to change this to our DB context. So we want to get a service, and after that, we're looking up for, do we have any migration file? In case we have it, go ahead and now migrate it, update it. So let's go and build this again. So let's stop this and build this. And that is done. So here, we're going to run this. So Docker compose app. Now let's run it and see. So after it has recreated, it's going to update the database with the file that we have. It seems there's an issue. Let's see, maybe we need to add a connection string to this. So under environment, let's go and add connection string. And here we want to specify it as appdb context, which corresponds with what we have in the apsettings.json. So you can see we have an app data and my product DB. Now when it comes to Docker compose file, you're going to also have same thing in here. Then we have our volume. Now let's save this and let's do this again. So build. Let's go up and run it. So compose up. Yep, and you can see that here migration has taken place. Now let's see it is running, so we can go and access this. Let's refresh this again, and this endpoint is loaded. Let's try to get product, and you can see from the response access now, because you just added migration. Let's go and add new product, and we have it. Let's get it. We have it. So you can see anytime that you have your application and you think you're done with this, it's good to containerize it, build it as an image, and host it. When you do that, it becomes much more easier for deployment. Now with this, another one good thing about this is you can run it as soon as you have the image built in your Docker. Anytime that you have it, whether you are not even have Visual Studio open, you can still run your application. Example here is I'm going to close this. Then I'm going to close this as well. So let me stop this. And I'll close this. So when you look at this, you can see I have my source code, or that's my folder open. I have my image also running. Now I can run it easily. Go to, this is running already. So you go to containers, and this is my API. So you can see it is running. I can just click on this to get it run. And if I click on this, it's going to open. And as you can see, as soon as I type in /swagger, it's going to open it for me. Although I have Visual Studio closed, but this is still working because I have my web API image running. Aside from this, I can also close this. Then you can stop this. Let's say right click on your root, then open terminal. When you open terminal, you can just go for Docker desktop. That is Docker compose. Down will just close this current file from here to close that image. So it has been removed. Now when you go here, I'm not seeing it anymore because I have only to do. I'm not having Dockerized API, right, or containerized API. Now, anytime that I want to run it, as far as I'm into the root where I have this Docker compose, I can just start it. So without even open Visual Studio, I can start and run my application. So all that you need to do here is Docker compose app, and now this is going to run this application for you. Now when you check this, you can see we are having it running, and you can now click on this. You see we have it being executed, and you can see from here it is saying that no migration were applied because the database is already up to date, and you know that. So I can just click on this to get this application run, and now let's check it out. Swagger, and we have it. You can go in and access whatever information that you want to get, and you have it here. I hope you've learned something here, and I believe from today you're going to start building Dockerized application instead of the traditional one. Thank you for watching this. I believe you and I enjoy it together, and hopefully stay tuned because I have a lot of informative content for you. And catch up again. So then, take care.